Good morning, everyone. I think this time we're going to start on time. So once again, good morning, everyone. My name is Tadas Tumenas, and I'm the head of Lithuanian RDI Liaison Office. There is a noise. All right, please. Okay, so I will come back to the housekeeping rules later. So I wanted to start with the introduction. So good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Tadas Tumenas, and I'm the head of Lithuanian RDI Liaison Office here in Brussels. Thank you for joining our webinar on regional innovation valleys, which is being organized by Cypriot, Polish, Hungarian, Slovenian, and Lithuanian RDI Liaison Offices in Brussels. And the goal of today's event is to provide information about the regional innovation valleys and how regions can join this initiative. But before we dive into the topic, I would like to remind everyone about the housekeeping rules. And firstly, please make sure that your microphones are muted. Secondly, kindly make use of the chat function if you want to make a comment or ask a question. And last but not least, please bear in mind that this webinar is being recorded and streamed on LINO Office YouTube channel. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to my colleague, Aliki, so she could say hi in her own language and welcome you all. So Aliki, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tadas. Good morning, everyone. Wow, it's such a nice thing to see everybody here today. We're very pleased that we have so many of you. I think I hear some background noise. My name is Aliki Varela. I work for the European Office of Cyprus in Brussels office. So we have this tradition to welcome everybody in our own language. So we'll switch to Greek. Καλημέρα σας. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ για την παρουσία σας σήμερα στην εκδήλωσή μας. Με μεγάλη μας χαρά σας υποδεχόμαστε σήμερα. Παρακαλώ να μην διστάσετε να μας θέσετε οτιδήποτε ερωτήματα, όπως ανέφερε και ο συνάδελφος. Είναι ευκαιρία για να ρωτήσετε ό,τι απορίες έχετε, οπότε είμαστε στη διάθεσή σας για οτιδήποτε. So now I will switch back to English and pass the floor to my colleague Maya.
Maya, you are muted.
Sorry, here I am. Good morning, everybody. My name is Maya Ferlins from Slovenian Business and Research Association. And first of all, I would like to thank you, everybody, for joining in such a big number to this event on regional innovation valleys. And thanks as well to my colleagues also from other offices. We are a great team organizing really good events. This is one of the many. I think that regional innovation valleys is quite timely topic now and event and offers a lot of opportunities. We'll switch to Slovenia now. Dobro jutro tudi vsem slovenskim udeležencem in hvala za vašo udeležbo. Verjamem, da obstaja interes tudi v Sloveniji za sodelovanje v tej pobudi in upam, da se boste tudi odzvali v velikem številu. And now I would like to pass the floor to my colleague Marta. Marta, you're muted as well.
I'm so sorry. I just did the same as you did. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marta Krutel, and I represent Polish National Center for Research and Development Office in Brussels. And I wish you to have a very substantive and fruitful meeting. Now I switch into the Polish language. Dzień dobry Państwu. Nazywam się Marta Krutel, reprezentuję Biuro Narodowego Centrum Badań i Rozwoju w Brukseli. Życzę Państwu bardzo merytorycznego i owocnego spotkania i zachęcam do zadawania jak największej liczby pytań, bo jest to wspaniała naprawdę okazja. Thank you very much. I will pass the floor to Orsi.
Hello, good morning. My name is Orsi Lugmain and I work for Eötvös Loránd University from Budapest, Hungary. I'm really happy to welcome you here. We hope that you find this presentation interesting and motivating to look for more opportunities in order to collaborate others to apply for this call. Szeretettel üdvözöljük Önöket. Lugmain Orsi vagyok, az Eötvös Loránd Tudományegyetemnek dolgozom Brüsszelben. Nagyon örülünk, hogy ilyen sokan részt vesznek az előadáson, és reméljük, hogy bátorítónak tartják ahhoz, hogy új lehetőségeket keressenek és pályázzanak ebben a felhívásban. Now back to English, I give the floor to Agota, who will moderate this session today.
Thank you very much, Orsi. So my name is Agota Dávid, and I'm representing the National Research Development and Innovation Office of Hungary here in Brussels. Jó reggelt kívánok mindenkinek, és hát tényleg nagyon örülünk a részvételnek, és ha bármilyen kérdésük van, azt mindenképpen jelezzék még itt a chatben, bár örülünk, hogy már így is számos kérdést kaptunk megelőzőleg. So I switch back to English and I just want to welcome you all, and we are really delighted about the high number of colleagues who join us today. And last time, so we, as already Maya mentioned, we have organized a series of such events and such information events. And last time we already covered the part of the innovation agenda. So it was the talent pillar and how EIT is working on the talent pillar. But this time we will go for the ecosystem pillar and the regional innovation valleys. Unfortunately, only one of our three speakers can be here with us today. So one of them had to cancel because of work-related reasons, and the other one because of health-related reasons. But those of you who are not living in Brussels cannot imagine what kind of weather we have. So we really are still at end of February or kind of that. So it's easy to get ill, unfortunately, but luckily we have Panos with us today, and he is very knowledgeable, and he can cover both the more generic presentation about the innovation agenda itself, but also the more detailed presentation about the valleys. And luckily, we will have more time for your questions, and we already received quite a number of them, but we want to encourage you to put additional ones into the chat. So after this complete presentation provided by Panos, we will address your questions, and now we have a lot of time, so hopefully we can cover all of them today. And now, without further ado, I give the floor to Panos. So please, he's coming from the European Commission, and this is this unit of innovation policy and access to finance. And he will first introduce the innovation agenda in more general, and then we'll cover the regional innovation valleys. Thank you for being us here today.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Thank you very much for the introduction, Agota. And the good news is that all the speakers where we were coming from, we are coming from the same unit of the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. We are sharing complementary knowledge. From my side, I have worked on the development of the new European Innovation Agenda up from its beginning, but also I have the privilege to work on the preparation and development of the regional innovation valleys. So I promise you that I will share all the relevant insights, and hopefully by the end of the discussion and the meeting, I will have convinced you to apply or help those interested to prepare their applications, because the goals, as you said, are quite close now, and we will have news very, very soon. But first things first, let me start with the new European Innovation Agenda. And if we go to the next slide, I would like to briefly give you a bit, although I heard that you have an overview, I would like to give you a bit of recall a bit how we proceeded, how we kicked off with this initiative, thinking of before the adoption of this new European Innovation Agenda on July last year, that it was a fact that in Europe we didn't have a kind of overarching innovation policy for many years. And in close consultations with our main stakeholders, we realized the need to develop such a relevant agenda, which is not a regulation, it's not a directive, but it's an orientation, if we could say so, document which articulates how we perceive the future of innovation in Europe in the next years, the following years, and how we believe that Europe can really, based on its competitive advantages, develop innovation for the next years. If we go to the next slide, you see why we believe that this new European innovation agenda, which has a strong focus on deep tech innovation, can actually succeed. And as I said, this is because of the strong foundations that we have in Europe. In a very thorough analysis which have been conducted while we were preparing the agenda, we clearly stressed our power and our capacity in Europe on assets, on different assets that we have. And in this context, we saw that the deep tech innovation, which is rooted in science and technology, and can build on the European entrepreneurial mindset, on the scientific excellence that we have, but also the strength of the single market and democratic societies will be the next big opportunity for Europe to establish its position in innovation globally. If we go to the next slide, you see the 6 main pillars, the 6 main assets that we consider as very important and as leading factors for this for the choice of deep tech as our next big target. And you will see, of course, the leadership in science. It is worth to mention that the EU is responsible for 1/5 of all top quality publications in the world, and for over 20% of the top publications and patent applications that can contribute towards green transition. Then you see the important scientific background, but also the industrial base afterwards, as it will be fundamental in this context. And more than 80% of deep tech ventures are engaged in building a physical product, and therefore often benefit from strong partnerships with leading industries. You mentioned that you already got a thorough presentation on the talent, which constitutes a very important element of whatever we do in Europe, but very much important on innovation. Europe has the privilege to have some very, very strong and important universities, top in the world. And talent is one of the priorities for Europe and for our commissioner as well. And finally, given the unprovoked and without any precedent attack of Russia to Ukraine, is no need to mention the importance of stability and democratic stability in Europe in the context of developing innovation. It's something commonly acknowledged. If we go to the next slide, you see the vision, which of course is in line with the political priorities of the Commission. And as I mentioned also before, one of the first elements we have in mind is how to improve Europe's competitiveness globally in a period where challenges arise more and more. Of course, in line with our targets for the twin transition, the green and digital transition. One additional element, which will be also further discussed afterwards on the regional innovation valleys, is of course the intention of the Commission to increase the innovation cohesion by eradicating innovation divide. And finally, the importance of strengthening even more the Europe's open strategic autonomy, which is something that we have faced difficulties and issues in many cases, as you all very well know. If we go to the next slide, you have a very brief picture of the 5 flagships of the new European Innovation Agenda. I'm quite sure most of you know them. Very briefly, what we had in mind is that if we want to promote the deep tech innovation, we have to do it in 5 main ways. This includes funding, this includes the framework where this will be developed, this includes strong innovation ecosystems, talent, and the existing policy-making tools. In terms of funding, it is widely known that one of the main issues in Europe is the difficulty to scale up. So how we can ensure that the essential resources from the private sector are well mobilized in the market, so that startups will have the opportunity to receive the essential funding in order to deploy their products. Of course, this cannot be done in a framework, in a landscape which is not fertile for innovation and conducive to innovation. And there we need a kind of flexible framework where we can test innovation, and this is where the experimentation comes in, but also innovation procurement. Without a doubt, one very important element is to ensure that Europe will not have different speeds in innovation, with actors having different understanding or different capacities. We need to bring all these actors together, because one of the most important things is that an innovation ecosystem should complement each other rather than compete with each other. So this is something that it has to be well established in the future of innovation for Europe. Yes, and talent, no need to say more. You are well informed about that, but you know the level of initiatives and the number of initiatives there. And finally, in terms of policy-making tools, this is a part which aims to, which reflects on data a lot, as we need a common language when we're talking about innovation in Europe. Although you know the difficulties when it comes to data is a very important element. It comes on channels of communication between the Commission and the stakeholders, so that we can have the essential exchange of knowledge, where we as policymakers, we will be able to deliver in a European level, but also on the other way around, the member states and the stakeholders in the member states will be able to circulate the ideas and the exchanges that we're doing, but also given the disposal of the member states certain tools to develop proactive innovation, proactively actually innovation. And these were the technical support instrument and the Horizon Europe policy support facility. I will refer to that afterwards. If we go to the next slide, as we continue in the presentation, I wanted to give you a brief overview of where we stand in terms of actions. As of course you understand that the implementation of the new European Innovation Agenda has kicked off. And in the new European Innovation Agenda, within these 25 flagship actions, you will see within these 5 flagship actions, you will see 25 main actions which support their implementation. So I wanted to give you a very brief overview of where we stand, and you can find many information, more detailed information and timelines in the website of the new European Innovation Agenda and the roadmap, which I can share with you also in the chat right away. In terms of the first flagship action and the funding for deep tech scale-ups, just to mention that two very important actions have already kicked off and they were completed. The first one is related to the debt equity bias reduction allowance, known as DEBRA, which is related to corporate income tax, for those who are not very much aware of that tool. And as simple as that, it intends to deal with asymmetric tax treatment between debt and equity financing. It's difficult in Europe to raise equity for companies and for startups, and the intention is to, in simple words, to give the opportunity to startups based on their needs and their financial structure to choose how they will raise they will raise their funding, and not decide based on their tax treatment. A second deliverable in this context, which has been already completed, is the Listing Act, which intends to simplify NT's listing requirements for certain types of companies. And there again, we want to reduce costs and increase legal certainty for issuers. There is this strong element of trying to decrease the perceived risk around startups. Again, please recall what I mentioned at the beginning. One of the important things and difficult things in Europe is to raise funding for startups and this deep tech gap, this scale-up gap, sorry, due to the perceived risk around this investment. So we want to crowd in private investment. We want to bring in private funding, and with these actions, we expect that we will achieve that because we create the necessary framework. Just also to mention that in the context of the first flagship and the funding part, very important initiative which is also ongoing is also related to the Women to Invest program, because entrepreneurship should be enhanced and strengthened also without any gender imbalances, and it's a very important element with which this agenda promotes from every side, both here but also in talent. And in this context, one of the actions is to provide training to women entrepreneurs to familiarize themselves with the VC, with the venture capital, enhance their venture capital background in order to play significant roles in the future, entrepreneurial roles, and decrease this gender imbalance which we experience in Europe. If we go to the next slide, we move to the second flagship, and here we have experimentation and innovation procurement. When we talk about experimentation, you can have in mind tools like regulatory sandboxes, living labs, and test beds. Why these tools? It's because a very significant feedback that we received from our stakeholders says that you're talking about innovation, but then all this regulation causes significant issues. It hampers the deployment of innovation. So how do you expect that we will actually innovate when regulation cuts that off? So there we perceive the need to create a safe place, which ensures all the necessary safeguards, where you can test innovation on the one hand, but on the other, without succumb to the regulatory restrictions, and then draw your conclusions on how you can deploy this innovation. And this is the sandbox element tool, the living lab, or the test bed. And in this context, we create different initiatives, starting from the guidance document, which we expect to publish within summer. And we will have there very important cases around Europe where we have successful examples of the establishment of regulatory sandboxes, so that member states and the innovation actors can see what it fits in their case, try to create similar examples in their case in order to test innovation. Similarly, we will launch such initiatives supported by the European Commission and EU funding under Horizon Europe, from testbed in renewable hydrogen to experimentation facilities for testing AI innovation, very important project in this context as well. Already in 2022, we had the revised state aid framework for research and development and innovation, which aims to further simplify the rules applied by EU countries to implement research and innovation, aimed at innovative solutions, including digital health, carbon neutral technologies, which will eventually also support significantly the green and digital economy. And then we, as I mentioned, we also proceed with innovation procurement actions, such as the specialist advisory service, which we intend to establish. The call for that opens on June, and the idea here is to bring an intermediary, let's say, between the public and the private sector, who can acknowledge the needs of both sides, the public procurer and the innovative supplier, accommodate and convey the relevant messages to both sides in order to enhance innovation procurement opportunities around Europe. We should not forget, when it comes to innovation, we should not forget the very significant purchasing power that the public sector has in Europe. Imagine if public sector utilizes part of this purchasing power to deploy innovation and support innovative companies. It will be really impactful. If we go to the next slide, I believe that you already have a very thorough analysis in the context of the talent. It's about the ecosystems first. Apologies. Here, as I said, we were going to talk in more details about the regional innovation valleys, which is a very, very important initiative which follows this new European innovation agenda. But briefly to mention also the adoption of and publication of the Commission notice on synergies between Horizon Europe and the European Regional Development Fund program, as this document is very important for the EU, as it outlines complementarities between the respective funding instruments, and you understand how it will facilitate the creation of synergies between cohesion policy programs and Horizon Europe. So it's an opportunity for the managing authorities to utilize cohesion policy programs, and in the same time find all the complementarities and opportunities which can stem from Horizon Europe programs, and in this context also deploy innovation. I will not stay more on the ecosystem part, as we're going to talk about the regional innovation valleys afterwards. In the next slide, I have included actions related to talent. I think you are very much familiar with that. However, I would like to refer to the EU Talent Pool platform, as this initiative has been announced by Commissioner Gabriel on the 21st of March, now during the very important travel in Silicon Valley. And the intention, this platform will be a matching tool, which intends to help European businesses, including startups, to find talent and attract talent outside of Europe as well. So it's not only about the opportunities that we're trying to develop for the talent in Europe, but don't forget that the global competition and the importance to attract also significant talent to Europe, back to Europe after a long time. So as I was saying, this platform will significantly facilitate mobility of skilled individuals towards and within Europe, through international recruitment, and also by supporting matchmaking between EU-based employers and qualified nationals of non-EU countries wishing to work and move legally to the EU. As I mentioned before, the women element, gender balance element, is also strong in the context of the talent, with the Women Leadership Program, but also the Women Tech EU initiative. Moreover, one of the very important actions which currently proceed is related to the EIT Deep Tech Talent Initiative. A very ambitious target of more than 1 million deep tech talents. It's something that we're still working on. You see that we have received very many expressions of interest already after the launch of the pledge from the EIT. But we also received, we have already more than 500,000 learners. So this initiative proceeds, and hopefully very, very soon, also still within 2023, we will be even closer to this very ambitious target. Finally, on the 5th flagship of the new European Innovation Agenda, in the next slide, you will see what I mentioned before, that we highlight the importance of data with and how we can utilize them in terms of policy making, innovation policy making. In this context, we are currently developing definitions related to startups, scale-ups, and deep tech, so that we can ensure a common language among all Europe. And we will very soon have the relevant publication, so stay tuned about that. One of the main important elements is also to have communication channels open between the Commission and the member states. And this tool is provided by the European Innovation Council Forum, where we can have essential exchanges with the main actors in Europe, where we can have we can showcase important examples, successful examples of Europe across the different member states, and convey important messages for the deployment of innovation. Whereas finally, two tools that are at the disposal of the member states and can be used for deploying innovative policies is the Horizon Policy Support Facility and the Technical Support Instrument. Member states have been mobilized, requesting advice and support through these instruments, and both of them have been proved very, very useful in the context of proactively developing innovation policies in member states. In my final slide for this section of the new European Innovation Agenda, I would like to, if we go to the next one, please. I would like to mention the coalition of the willing, and actually close this first part with the way I opened it, saying that we started the development of the new European Innovation Agenda in close cooperation with our stakeholders. That was one of the key messages that also our commissioner wanted to pass, that we can do things, we can develop things together, when she's repeatedly asking for the participation of the stakeholders across Europe, those who share the same passion on innovation. In the same context, the Commission has developed, in cooperation with the stakeholders, the coalition of the willing, because after developing an idea, we have to move on to the implementation, which is not a matter of the Commission, but it's also a matter of all the actors across Europe. And in this context, we expect more and more to engage in the implementation of the new European Innovation Agenda. You can find all the relevant information in the website, but we invite our stakeholders to be part of the coalition of the willing and support our effort in terms of implementation. And with that, I'm closing this first part of the new European Innovation Agenda, where we stand. As I said, you can find all the information and the updates in terms of implementation in our website. It's also in the chat. And this is regularly updated, and you will see also the timeline for the deliverables. And with that, I think we can go to the main part, and this is no other than the regional innovation valleys. If we go to the next slide. So we go back to what I was mentioning, third flagship of the new European Innovation Agenda. And what is the problem? As I mentioned, we cannot afford, let's say, in Europe, having different speeds of innovation. Innovation actors and innovation ecosystems should complement each other, enhance their capacities, and this divergence in terms of innovation performance should be decreased. And in this context, we were trying to develop the action which will bring different actors together, countries and regions with different speeds, performance of innovation, to cooperate, and through this cooperation ensure enhance their convergence and decrease and increase the innovation cohesion. And this brings me to the next slide and the Regional Innovation Valleys Initiative. As I said, The target is, of course, to have strong innovation ecosystems. And with strong innovation ecosystems, we expect that we will be able to address the most challenging issues that the EU is currently facing. As connected ecosystems will provide the concentrated and highly effective answers to these challenges. As stressed in the new European Innovation Agenda, we anticipate that up to 100 regions will commit to enhance the research and innovation directionality of their investments and policies. However, although ambitious, this target appeared on the first hand when we developed this initiative, I have to admit that the interest of the regions across Europe already is even higher. So it will not be eventually surprising if we manage even to surpass this initial number, and I hope that more and more regions will be willing to engage in that. If we go to the next slide, I would like to mention the funding that it has been announced and mentioned in the new European Innovation Agenda. Namely, we expect to support the action of the regional innovation valleys by utilizing 100 million from Horizon Europe, but also 70 million from the Interregional Innovation Investment Instrument under the European Regional Development Fund, the RDF. So please recall also what I mentioned about the synergies document, which has been developed and published as a deliverable of the new European Innovation Agenda, and recall the importance of creating this kind of synergies there. Currently, in almost 1 week from now, we will have the first part, first part of this commitment, with the opening of the European Innovation Ecosystems Call under Horizon Europe, which will commit 60 million out of the 100 promised. The next amount will follow in the next work programs, the remaining amount. So by kicking off the European Innovation Ecosystems Work Program initiative, we expect to develop the first consortia, which will lead to the identification of the first regional innovation valleys. It is important to mention that this action is a 50% co-fund. So you understand that it's not only the 60 million that the Commission will put in this effort as a first step, but the expectation is actually to mobilize out of it more than 120 million on this purpose. And more specifically, you will be able to redirect your stakeholders as well, or you yourselves will be able to pose your questions and get way more information also about the implementation modalities of this action, regardless of what we're going to discuss here today during the info session, which is planned for the 25th of May, in 2 weeks from now, and for which I can also share with you the relevant link, so that you can register and already start preparing your questions for this event. If we go to the next slide, I wanted to, in a very brief note, to give you a look on how this action of regional innovation valleys will look like, because this will help you understand also what we have in mind. So if we can split it, it has a regional innovation valley will have 2 parts. The first one is related to actions which enhance the ecosystem element. As I said upfront, the intention is to bring ecosystem actors together. And in this context, the regional innovation valleys should develop this kind of interconnected ecosystem, which includes the access to infrastructure, exchange of staff, trainings, improvement of complementary capabilities, They can utilize innovation procurement in this context, experimentation tools like the sandbox I mentioned before. You see that there is a wide range of activities that can be developed for creating interconnected ecosystems among the different regions and the different stakeholders which will participate in this initiative. And this is a very important element, the first one. But it's not only about doing a coordination and support action. It's not only about bringing these actors together, it's also about developing innovation at the end. And the second part of the Regional Innovation Valley is specifically focusing on that. We refer to the development of at least 3 interregional innovation projects, which will be, however, they will be directed towards specific technological areas. And if you see the areas that we indicate below, you will realize also their high connection to the main challenges that the EU is currently trying to address. As you will see, the importance of actions around reduction of fossil fuels, reliance on fossil fuels. You will see global and food security, digital transformation, healthcare, but also circularity. So the idea is that the regions which will cooperate in these interregional projects and all the actors which will be part of it will focus on how to address the challenges which emerge from in these areas by developing the technology which can provide the answer in this topic. So you see, we have the cooperation element, but at the end we will have, and the ecosystems element, but at the end we expect a tangible outcome out of it through innovation. I hope that this gives you a very brief but a very accurate picture of how the European innovation ecosystems action will be developed. If we go to the next slide, I also would like to mention to you though that the baseline, let's say, criterion of the composition of the consortium, which is also important for you to know. What we indicated in our call is that we expect at least 5 national or regional authorities from 5 different member states to be part of the consortium. And we have one more parameter, which is that at least 2 of them have to come from moderate or emerging innovator regions, and at least 1 should represent strong innovation leader or strong innovation leader regions. For your understanding, when a member state is applying as a whole, in this case, they will use as a reference point the European Innovation Scoreboard, which clarifies their status, their performance status. Whereas in case of regions, they will use as a reference point the Regional Innovation Scoreboard to assess their performance and identify their status for this consortium. In the next slide, then, I want to mention one more important element. As primarily you see the very important role of the regions and the national authority in this action. Why? It's because we want to develop action plans in a high level so that we have also the commitment for the R&I directionality that I mentioned, for the interregional cooperation that I mentioned. But this does not mean that we exclude all the other actors from the discussion or from the implementation of the regional innovation values. The other actors can participate on the first hand in the consortium. As you saw, the baseline criterion, baseline condition includes 5 different member states and regions, but then the consortium can have different actors as well on that, as long as the 50% co-fund condition is fulfilled. But this is not the only way. So when it comes to the implementation of the interregional project, we have foreseen that the consortium has in its capacity the possibility to use the funding to third parties too. This means that the consortium will be able to launch the competitive procedures and allocate part of this budget to other actors, which will be able to implement part of the action. So, for example, let's say that the consortium is working on fossil fuel reduction and reliance from fossil fuel reduction, and the consortium needs a study and the relevant research on a specific technology in this context. Then it will have the opportunity to run this competitive process and give this funding to third parties, to a university, which will prepare and will develop this relevant research. Then it can run a similar process and give this kind of funding to a startup, which will be able to develop this relevant technology. So you see, it's not only about the participation in the consortium, but also having this FSTP, this funding to third parties tool, which is a significant element when it comes to the implementation of the regional innovation valleys. Finally, if we go to the next slide, and of course, I'm expecting questions on the first part, but I would like to close and refer to one of the most recent updates that we had, and this is the announcement from Commissioner Ferreira and the Committee of Regions at the end of March of the call for expression of interest. The idea here is that on the one hand, we as Commission, we want to facilitate the matchmaking because, as I mentioned before, we need consortia which will participate in our calls. We need consortia with different regions that will participate in our calls. So one of the main points is to ensure that different regions will be able to develop rapport with other regions, identify other partners. So we were looking for a tool that will facilitate all this, and the call for expression of interest is the best way, as we will from the applications we are receiving, we will develop an interactive map where regions in Greece, for example, that deal with raw materials will be able to find other regions in Finland or across Europe that deal with raw materials and try to cooperate and prepare themselves for the calls, or cooperate in a long-term framework for their common base and work. But this is the first element, but not the only. As I said, the interest that we are continuously receiving for regional innovation valleys is paramount. And in this context, it was agreed that this call for expression of interest will help regions, and we will give to regions interested, but also to those which will provide the essential commitments. It will give the label of the regional innovation valley. For those of you who have seen this call for expression of interest, you will see a number of commitments included inside, and these are not diverging from what we have already discussed. These stem from the new European Innovation Agenda and are related to the commitment of the research and innovation, the directionality of research and innovation investment towards a specific topic. They are related to the commitment for interregional cooperation and the need to improve innovation performance across Europe and so on. So we follow the same rationale. And after the call for expression of interest as announced, it will remain open at this stage until the 18th of September. And after that, we will follow up with some additional questions to the regions, to the applicants, in order to ask them for evidence on their commitments, because we have to ensure that what they have promised for and what they commit for is going to be actually implemented and proceed. So after the closure of the call for expression of interest, We will have this follow-up period with some further exchanges with the applicants, and then we will proceed with the evaluation of the commitments, with the evaluation of the applications, also with the participation of external experts as promised by our commissioner. At the end, by March 2024, where we will also have finalized the evaluation of, as I said, the call for expression of interest, but also of the Horizon Europe and ERDF calls, we will be able to announce by then the first regional innovation valleys of Europe, to give you a complete overview. Yes, with that, I think I can close my presentation on both New European Innovation Agenda and Regional Innovation Valleys, and give back to you the floor, Agata, for the questions.
Oh, yes, yes, thank you so much. It was very rich, and the questions are just arriving. And there was actually one or two, but it was more or less the same topic about the first part. So I would start with that one, because people are interested in the definition of deep tech and how far deep tech differs from normal tech. So they would like to receive a definition. Do you have one, or it's just more or less described in the agenda?
It is articulated in the agenda, but deep tech innovation, I will tell you the very technical one, but I will also indicate you, I will quote Commissioner Gabriel on and an additional element that should be considered when we refer to deep tech. So deep tech innovation goes to the threshold of science and the utilization of breakthrough innovation that stems from the laboratory, and it's high tech, utilizing our knowledge and engineering principles, biological, physical principles. But this is one part which when we started talking about deep tech, we all had in mind. But now quoting Commissioner Gabriel, deep tech innovation has also a societal element, mentioning the deep societal problems that we are facing. So deep tech, the development of this kind of innovation can help us address this round of problems. In terms of definition, however, we utilize the one that is right now in the New European Innovation Agenda.
Thank you very much. I see many questions related to this lead partner, and apparently there are a number of entities among the listeners who are state-owned 100%, and are they then eligible, even if they are not, let's say, a government agency, but they are state-owned? And then
now we go to the regional innovation valleys, correct?
Yes, sorry. So that was only about the agenda, and now we have plenty of questions about the second.
So when it comes, so we talk about also we talk about the call for proposals, right? So yes, we are talking about the opportunity support, and you refer to state-owned companies.
Or entities. I'm not sure what
entities. Yes. No, entities. Let's call it like that correctly. I mentioned before in my presentation, and I believe that you will circulate the slides.
Thank you.
That the baseline criterion is that we need 5 different member states and 5 different from 5 different member states, regions, or national authorities. This is the baseline criterion for the consortium. In this context, as long as this is fulfilled, any other kind of entity will be able to participate in the consortium and be part of it, and also deal with the implementation of the actions. We encourage it. However, the reason why we perceive the importance of having this engagement in regional and national level is that we expect that there will be a real action plan, long-term action plan, a strategic plan, which will not stick to 1-2 years of implementation, but it will be up to 5 years at least. Of course, in this context, state-owned entities are very important to participate. And here what we say is that you have two ways to participate. The first one is by being part of the consortium, where then you will also have the responsibility to fulfill the 50% co-fund commitment, because as I said, it's a co-fund partnership. So imagine a consortium that we have the 5 different regions. Each of them is asking for a specific amount throughout this proposal. And this region is expected to add the additional 50% of this amount. Okay, if I ask for 1 million from the EU funding, I'm expected to put 1 million from my pocket as well. So the same would apply to the state-owned entity. So there is this opportunity to participate in the consortium like that. Other than that, these entities can work on the implementation of the interregional projects that I mentioned. And in this context, they can try to receive funding through the funding to third parties tool that I mentioned. And in this context, they will not have to provide money from their own pockets. You understand how I mean it, but they will receive the funding coming from the EU support and the call, and the additional support which will come from the region or the member state. So there are these two different options which apply to any kind of entity. A startup can be part of
there
that.
are many other questions like this, how you involve, still before already we received these questions. So, but apparently they cannot be considered as a national authority. So we still need the national authority or regional. And in addition, they can be part of either the consortium or the implementation. Fine. Then we also have a number of questions about this 50%. So can it be in kind? Can it be ERDF money? What kind of money it can be? And then now that you mentioned, so in the consortium, is it the national authority that should provide the 50% for everybody, or each of the consortium members should more or less cover their own 50%?
On the second scale of your question, each of the consortium members should provide the 50%. It's like that it works in the case of the co-fund calls under Horizon, and these are the terms in this context. Then I mentioned how the different participants can be part of it. For the first scale of your question, but Agota, if you can repeat at least the first scale so that I can.
Yeah. So if there is in kind, it's also.
Yes, for the funding resources. So we have a flexibility there. We say that they can utilize national resources, regional resources. ERDF can be also a source of funding, and that's why I referred also to the synergies document. Which gives us the base to discuss about that. It's important not to overlap in terms of activities, but complement. You understand how this will work, because we cannot have overlaps in terms of actions and double fund the same activity. They should be complementing each other. And of course, it's also the mobilization of private funding in the same context, because we anticipate that when we develop, when regions develop an action plan, when regions develop interregional projects which will have tangible results, also private actors will have a significant interest to participate and contribute to this process. So we don't have a restriction. But it's rather a flexible way to complement this 50% of the funding.
I still receive questions about this national authority definition. So do you define it somehow, or
we will to all of you, we will provide a clear definition which you will be based on also for those who will apply. It will be available in the template of the application. Very, very specific on how you can identify regional and national authorities.
Great. Then
and don't forget to keep an eye, and you will use as a reference point, as I mentioned, either the European Innovation Scoreboard or the Regional Innovation Scoreboard. So where you stand.
And do you consider NUTS 2 regions as?
When it comes to the Horizon Europe call right now, given that the reference point is the regional innovation scoreboard, when the evaluator is going to see the baseline criterion, he expects to see the kind of alignment with the regional innovation scoreboard. So someone will expect to see at least five regions, which will have a clear, I think that the regional innovation scoreboard is based on NUTS 2 primarily. They will have a NUTS 2 clear allocation and distribution. However, although this is kind of the average situation, this cannot be the norm, because in Europe we have different cases. We have different cases across Europe. In Germany, for example, we have NUTS 1. In Cyprus, we don't have this split, and according to the exchanges we had, it's the deputy ministry which takes the decisions in this context. So when it comes to the calls, we will examine the baseline criterion to make sure that this fits, that this fits. However, we expect also NUTS 3 applying. We expect cities to apply, as long, of course, as they have the interest to do so and they can support it. So part of this context will be also towards NUTS 3 regions. And now let me come also to the call for expression of interest, because there it applies as well. First of all, we will provide a Q&A, which will be uploaded for the call for expression of interest, because there we are receiving a lot of questions about, again, this NUTS dimension. And we know that the resources are addressed and utilized in different levels in member states. And to ensure that no one will be left outside, also from the call for expression of interest, what we will do and what we will propose to do is, even for NUTS 3 regions to receive their interest to become regional innovation valley, but then in the follow-up that we will do and in the evaluation that we will do, we will look after how they organize themselves in terms of resources. Is it in a NUTS 3 level that they are utilizing the resources? There are many cases like that. So when we will ask for the evidence, we will try to understand how the specificities that take place in this context, make it part of the evaluation, and do not restrict regions from NUTS 3 that have the commitment of the region to become regional innovation valleys. But I would say that, strictly legally speaking, when we come to the Horizon Europe call, the baseline criterion is straight. So the consortium should have this kind of structure, at least the 5 baseline, at least the 5 different member states or regional authorities, and then either have actors and members of the consortium which are from NUTS 3 or cities or even municipalities. Then we will not have something to raise. I hope it makes things clear. I try to make it as
quite complicated
to simplify it.
I
I understand that it's not. It's without a doubt it's a complex process.
And if these national authorities are really on the national level, is it possible that they more or less commit, let's say, for different topics, the same authority?
Now we go again to the Horizon Europe call. We understand that an authority can have different topics, different smart specialization, because smart specialization is a very important element in this. Yeah. They will participate in the relevant consortia. So if I focus on fossil fuels, or if I focus on circularity and I'm developing different technologies, and if I focus on I don't know, food security, I will participate as a region in the different consortia which work on these 3 different topics, on these different thematic topics. I will not be in one consortium which will address all of them. There will have to be a thematic scope. Otherwise, it's going to be very wide, and it cannot fit everything.
Yes, of course. I ask one more question, then I give the floor to Pedro so I can check the rest. So I also saw some questions about the synergies with the I3 pool. So should there be synergies, or are there synergies, or how should the participants or applicants look at these 2 options?
first of all, the I3 calls will be public and the work program text will be available on the 17th of May by the opening of the call. This is one specificity of the I3 instrument. So you will have the details of the call. Fortunately or fortunately, you will have them by the 17th and the day of the opening. There will be complementarities, as it has been promised in the new European Innovation Agenda. And I think it will be very important for you too, if you participate in the info session, as from our side, to decrease this confusion about what's happening to the EIE I3 call, we will have a common info session.
Great.
Both calls will be presented.
So on the 25th of May.
On the 25th of May. Both calls will be presented. We will try also to have a discussion about the possible complementarities between Horizon Europe RDF funding that we mentioned, a technical presentation from our colleagues in this context. And thirdly, we are preparing a Q&A document which will follow, which will be published together with the calls, on similarities and differences between EIE and I3 calls.
Great.
Which actor applies where, so that stakeholders can decide what fits better. But given that the I3 call will be available only as of the 17th of May, we cannot publish something yet, as we have to wait for the publication. And this document will be also available as of the 17th of May. In addition, you understand that each call will have its Q&A. And these are dynamic documents. So, I mean, when we receive additional questions that we have not addressed, we will complement them.
Okay.
But there will be additional information in this context.
That's very useful. So I now give the floor to Pedro. I hope he can unmute himself. And then I just have a look at the questions in time.
Hello, good morning to all of you. I'm terribly sorry. I came in late. I wasn't able to join you any earlier, but I had sent, I believe I had sent a previous question in order for us to be able to anticipate the preparation of a proposal. And I believe some of them may have been already answered by Panagiotis. So I'm terribly sorry if I'm going to force him to repeat himself. This is very important to us. So basically it's two questions, and one has to do with NUTS 3, if it's possible, if it's that in Portugal we have NUTS 3. And if it's possible to present an innovation valley on that administrative and geographical area. And then in terms of the consortium, to know if a higher education institution, a polytechnic institute or university may lead, and if so, which other members does it have to include, or should it include in the consortium? If it cannot be a higher education institution, how can we position ourselves? That is, who should we talk to explain the relevance of presenting a proposal with us as a partner? So basically, that's it. And of course, if you could just, in a nutshell, that would be in 30 seconds, just outline what everyone is expecting for an innovation valley to present as its general features, that would also be very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro, for your questions. Even repeating them, I think it's never enough, because it's indeed it's a complicated topic. With the involvement of many stakeholders, with the best of intentions, and with the involvement of as many as possible stakeholders. And no matter the repetition, the important part for us is to ensure the good level and high quality of applications. So in this trip, we are all together. Starting from the what is expected part. I believe that Agota and the rest will circulate with you my presentation. So there will be one specific slide which give you a brief overview of how exactly this action will look like. In a nutshell, as you said, One part includes the ecosystem relevant activities, interconnection of players, sharing on infrastructures, exchange of staff between universities which will participate, between companies which will participate, regional staff, development of innovation procurement activities. I don't know if the innovation which will be developed allows it, perhaps even the deployment of a regulatory sandbox or a living lab which will test innovation. All these actions will be considered as the ecosystem coordination action. But this is the one part, because at the end, we need also a tangible result, which will come through innovation actions. For those of you who are familiar with what innovation action means under Horizon Europe. For those of you not, innovation action is the concept of developing a technology service at the end, something, as I said, tangible. And there, this is the second part, and there we expect interregional cooperation, different regions of the consortium coming with their actors, coming close to each other to develop this innovation. And there we have the focus on the 5 different areas that I mentioned: reduction of fossil fuel reliance, food security, the digital part and cybersecurity, circularity, and I think I didn't mention food security. So these 5 different areas. You will see the slide. I think it makes, even in a simplistic way, it makes clear the 2 parts of the action. NUTS 3. When we go to the call, the Horizon Europe call, as I said, we use as a reference point the Regional Innovation Scoreboard. The baseline criterion for creating a consortium eligible to apply is that we have 5 different member states, either national authorities or regional authorities applying. And as a reference point, we use either the European Innovation Scoreboard or the Regional Innovation Scoreboard. In terms now of regions, if you look at the Regional Innovation Scoreboard, the majority is, I don't know in particular, I don't recall in particular in Portugal, the majority, however, is in NUTS 2. So the evaluators will use this as a criterion on the baseline, on the 5 main entities. However, this does not mean that as other entities of the consortium, we cannot have NUTS 3. They can be NUTS 3 because, as you said, it's also a matter who, depending on the different member state, who utilizes and manages the funds. You have different levels, different layers in each country. In Portugal, as you said, you have this particular example. Or in Spain, there are regions who have the main strategy, but are also cities who are very much engaged in smart specialization and so on. So they can participate, but we have to make sure that this is what we say, we have to make sure that the base criterion is fulfilled, so that we will not have issues when it comes to the assessment on the legal base. Moreover, as I mentioned before, when it comes to NUTS 3, we expect also NUTS 3 regions to apply in the call for expression of interest. So this will not involve funding. This involves only the label and the matchmaking, but it's good for NUTS 3 regions to be also part of it, because like that, NUTS 3 regions will, let's say you focus on circularity, you will find also other regions, NUTS 2, NUTS 1, who deal with circularity. You will create this report, and you will be able to even to apply together in the Horizon Europe call. But also, why not to receive the label no matter what through the call for expression of interest and the assessment there. That was your first question. And the second question was about the consortium and the participation of high-level institutions and technical universities. I told you the baseline criterion. Technical universities and other kind of institutions can, of course, participate in the consortium. They will have to, if they ask, for example, from the consortium from 1 million euros, they will have to put 1 million from their pocket as well. This is the co-fund rate. This is a 50% co-fund rate. They can participate like that. This is one option. However, there's a second option. Let's say that in your region, your region participates in the consortium, not the university, but with the rest say that, listen, we need a research on the X topic. Who is going to do that? We need the university. Okay, in this context, they can use the funding to third parties. In this context, they will say, I need my university to prepare to me a region about water treatment. And then the university will receive funding both from the EU part of the support and the region, namely the co-fund part that the region is putting, without the university per se committing money to this context. It will be rather a form of a grant. And this FSTP can go up to 600,000. It's up to this amount. So with that, I think that I covered all.
Just one more. Thank you very much. You were very clear. Just one question. Who leads the consortiums? Can a higher education institution lead?
We don't have a specific restriction on that. There's no restriction and I don't think that we will have it in the templates. We'll have to wait for the publication of the templates of application. But we don't have a specific restriction.
But
as I told you, the criterion is one. Sorry,
but you still need the national authority. So even if it's the consortium,
as long as this is fulfilled, the legal basis allows it.
Okay, thank you. You were extremely clear. Thank you very much.
Glad to hear that, Pedro. Very kind of you.
Now, there are some questions about the expression of interest. So is it in a way a precondition that you show your interest now after that you apply, or there is no such?
No, there is no such thing as a precondition, Agata. There is no such thing. But on the other hand, I think it will be helpful because, as I said, we want to make a map where you will see the regions, NUTS 1, NUTS 2, NUTS 3, which declare their thematic scope. They will have this contact point. So this will facilitate, I think it will substantially facilitate the matchmaking then. Because don't forget that also the proposals, for those who will submit proposals, the proposal is a competitive, is a competition, it's a competitive process. So apparently we cannot fund everyone. We will fund six consortia under EIE. So we will not fund everyone. The most well-established and best proposals will be rewarded. So we have the baseline criterion, but this does not mean that if you have a 20 regions consortium, it's definitely could be definitely better established. You see, so this matchmaking, I believe that this matchmaking element should not be forgotten. It's important to keep it in mind, and also to have an overview of what's happening in Europe in terms of the interest for regional innovation valleys. But it's definitely not a precondition.
Okay.
But there are also regions that say that I'm not very much interested to apply necessarily. I want the label of the regional innovation valley, so I will do it like that. For those actors that think like that, this is also an opportunity to do it.
And then apparently it's also not a precondition that these regions have been in contact with each other before, because you can just pick somebody who is more or less... It's not again
a precondition, but we will ask for evidence. So we will ask for evidence saying, okay, X region, are you in touch? Well, there is the opportunity, there is the relevant point in the call for expression of interest. We say, are you in touch with other regions? Many applicants have said yes. I'm in touch with 1, 2, 3, 4. To those applicants, we're going to ask, okay, have you done any projects? We will ask for some additional information to understand where they stand. They might also say no, but I want to be in touch with X regions. There, you can either do it utilizing the matchmaking tool that we will develop through the call for expression of interest, or by the time we will ask for the evidence, they will have to provide us a clear plan on how they will do it.
Great.
Again, as additional evidence.
Then there is something about the budget. So it's more or less this authority that receives the budget, because it was in the call that all the others will become associated partners, which mean they don't get funding. Is this correct? Or so is it the national authority that will receive the money and then more or less they distribute it partly in a cascading way for these concrete projects, and they will also coordinate the rest, or so what is the difference? Let's say
the funding to third parties is, as you said, this cascading part. But this is for those who will not be part of the consortium. Other than that, the consortium will receive the funding, split the funding as normally the consortia members in Horizon Europe. Okay, so consortium members, they receive the funding, not only the okay, great. But the cascade funding is this FSTP, this funding to third parties is the cascade funding rationale, as exactly you mentioned. But you understand, it's also to involve other stakeholders, other actors. But it's also, I think, if a university, if a startup knows that the region is behind it and will support it and will back it up, it's also important for the university, which will dedicate their resources and will try to develop the action and so on, or the startup. So, as I said up front, the idea is to bring innovation actors together. It's to have strong innovation ecosystems and different regions together and national authorities together, so that we will ensure one speed of performance. We will ensure innovation cohesion. Yeah, some people wonder how this matchmaking tool can be used when there is not so much time for it, but I suppose. What do you mean there's not much time? I will explain. I mean, the matchmaking tool will be developed within the next weeks. The call for proposals in Horizon Europe will be open until the 17th of October. Both I3 and EI call will be open until the 17th of October. We will update every once in a week, twice a week, the map. So they will have the relevant updates, but the interested applicants will have the updates in the map. And as I said, we haven't opened yet the EI and I3 calls, but the map will be also uploaded and will be available. So I think that it will happen soon. They can. I would also give the floor very quickly to Anthony van der Ven, because he had a very concrete question about the project and how it will more or less develop into a valley. And then maybe I will have one more final question, and then we have to close this session. So sorry if not all the questions were answered, but we more or less agreed that this event will finish at 11 o'clock. And now we put all the questions we direct to Panos, and it must be. I hope at least, Agota, I hope at least colleagues that the answers help. Oh yes, I think we received plenty of very useful answers. Thank you. Don't forget the info session. I think it will shed even more light, technical, in more implementation questions. So please, Anthony, if you can clarify a bit.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. From my side as well, Panagiotis, thank you very much for your huge effort this morning. My question was I think you have answered it more or less in what you said, but maybe just to confirm, because we are running with a number of innovation ecosystems currently a European project to actually get to joint action plans among these ecosystems. In a way, you could see that as a precursor to the regional innovation valleys.
You mean the preparatory action under the European Innovation Ecosystem?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, these are 4 regional innovation ecosystems, which are not NUTS 2. They are below that. The focus of the activities of the thematic focus of the joint action plan is how these regional innovation systems can support cities in the ambition that they set in another European Commission initiative, the EU mission around climate neutral cities. So what can these innovation ecosystems do? And we were very interested with this network of 4 ecosystems, plus a number of other ecosystems that were also engaged in the PRI initiative, to follow up and to actually say, okay, now we use the regional innovation valleys to start implementing the action plan that we're now jointly developing. I was a bit dismayed when I understood that, okay, now I need to talk to my province and the province need to do that, but the province as a nudge 2 hasn't developed this joint action plan. You see where my problem was.
Yes,
so I thought, okay, why this strong link to that particular level? Well, we have these innovation ecosystems that are sub-regional, if you like, but that are working on a joint action plan at the very moment. So they're doing it. Why can't they submit? Now, what I understand from you, but correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that we need, for legal reasons, to have these nuts to present, let's put it like that, committed partner, but the implementation can actually be done by ecosystems that are not necessarily cover the whole region, if you like.
Correct.
This is what I got as an answer so far. So I just want
yes, it's correct. It's correct, Anthony.
So it would be like if in our particular case, we're coming from the Brainport region, Eindhoven, around Eindhoven. So not only the city Eindhoven, it's the region. I would need to get the NUTS 2 level, which is basically either the province or we have also NUTS 3, but that's not really an entity. But I need the province to actually say, we support this, or how would this work?
First of all, now you're referring to the application for the Horizon Europe call.
Of course, yes.
So you can be part of the consortium, even if your NUTS 2 region decides not to be.
Okay.
But I mean, let's say that the consortium fulfills the baseline criterion of the 5 regions that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Then you can be part of the consortium, despite the region's intention to be a member of it.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no problem then.
No.
The answer is even more positive than I had expected.
There is the flexibility in the code.
Yeah.
There is the flexibility in the code.
Okay.
The legal criterion is this.
Okay.
And I don't believe that, I mean, as long as this is fulfilled and the evaluator knows that we don't have any legal based restrictions, then they will assess the proposal. Then they will see the different regions and actors that participate. Then we go to the I mean, it's the screening, imagine it as the screening part, check, and then we go on. But then you can, as you said, you have already your funds, you can, and your plans. And
Thank
well,
you.
that is what I think.
Sorry, Anthony, I think we slowly have to wrap this up. So
I apologize for taking time on this very detailed question, but.
And if you are also a member of the PRI, because I recall Eindhoven is, yes.
Well, it's Brainport, So, yeah.
So all in all, I think we received really a lot of very clear answers. Thank you so much, Panos. There was a request for more or less summing up, but I can assure everybody that we will circulate the recording of the event so you can listen to it several times to more or less deepen the knowledge and remember all these answers. And maybe, Panos, because maybe we couldn't respond to, let's say, 4 or 5 questions. If we send these in writing, can you send me an answer that we can then circulate in addition to the recording? But that's not so many, I can assure you. So I think we more or less covered everything, but there might be just really 4 or 5 questions in addition. So then that work.
I will try to address it. Yes, Agata. I shared with you 2 additional links for the call for expression of interest and the call and the Vales call. There will be the Q&A documents. There will be the info session. Yes. I think that the majority will be there for you.
No, this is really very much appreciated. If we cannot make it, we fully understand. So this is why we have the recording and we have the slides and we have the links. So I think, and then the info day. So more or less we can then rather encourage the colleagues who are really interested or they have some unanswered questions.
Since I see the last question, just to mention that we will do a dedicated meeting with the program committee from our side. So we will inform all the NCPs on practicalities. Can distribute it accordingly also to the member state. We will try to cover it all, and we are here also for the period of the preparation.
Thank you so much. It's very, very much appreciated, and I'm very happy that the audience is also so active, so you can see the interest, I'm sure. And that there are, I don't know how many, there are still 140 participants, so I think this is a success in itself. So thank you very much. Thank you, and we will of course follow the procedure also in the future. Thank you for being here with us today.
A pleasure, Agata. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Have a nice day.
Bye bye.